A new documentary is set to revisit a cold-blooded crossbow murder on Anglesey back in 2019. The murder of Gerald Corrigan, killed by a crossbow in the quiet countryside, remains one of Wales's most perplexing criminal mysteries. In a new two-part documentary called Llofruddiaeth y Bwa Croes, which means Crossbow Killer, airs on S4C on January 2nd and January 3rd, and offers viewers an in-depth explanation of the investigation, featuring interviews with journalists, a pathologist, and those closest to the victim. The series revisits the tragic events surrounding Mr Corrigan's death and attempts to answer the one question that has lingered for years. Why was Gerald Corrigan killed? On Good Friday, Easter 2019, Gerald Corrigan was found badly injured outside his remote Anglesey home. He had been struck by a crossbow bolt fired from distance, an unusual and shocking method of murder that immediately set alarm bells ringing for investigators. Ballistic and forensic experts tried to piece together the events leading up to the murder as they happened. It was concluded that Mr Corrigan was bent over the sky dish with his hand resting on the pebble dash wall. The shooter would have been about 10 metres away, probably in the field in front of the house, hiding behind the garden wall or fence. Mr Corrigan was taken to Ysbyty Gwynedd, Bangor, and was later transferred to the Royal Stoke Hospital, where he died some 22 days later on May 11th that year. He had developed sepsis and also had kidney problems. What made this tragedy even more unsettling was the lack of any clear motive. Mr Corrigan, a retired photography lecturer, was a man of modest means with no apparent enemies, leading police to speculate that this may have been a random attack. However, with no evidence to support this theory and no obvious subjects, the case soon spiraled into a mystery that would baffle people for months to come. The first episode of the S4C documentary takes viewers back to the scene of the crime, a remote house with a broken satellite dish and a householder who seemingly lived a peaceful and uneventful life, but ended up murdered in an unusual and barbaric way. Journalists who covered the story provide their perspectives on the case, sharing the confusion and frustration they felt as the investigation progressed with few developments. They detail how the press was gripped by the story, trying to make sense of why a man like Mr Corrigan would be targeted in such a violent and impersonal way. A sport therapist called Terence Wall, who lived in Bringuran, not far from Mr Corrigan's home, was eventually charged with his murder, convicted and sentenced for a minimum of 31 years at Mold Crown Court in February 2020. The documentary uncovers how Wall was arrested and charged with the murder. Detectives had spoken to Wall before he became a suspect, as he was one of 17 people on Anglesey to have bought a crossbow in the previous 10 years from the UK's largest crossbow supplier. Wall became prime suspect weeks later after being first interviewed by police when a Land Rover Discovery belonging to his partner was found burned out near Bethesda, a 25-minute drive from his home. The programme shows that analysis of the Land Rover's telematics, a location tracking SIM card, revealed that he had parked at Port Darfach Beach, a short walk from Mr Corrigan's home near the Anglesey coastal path at the time of the murder. Wall and his associates had tried to destroy the vehicle by arson, but unbeknownst to them, the telematic information had been uploaded to the cloud. Wall's digital footprint also revealed he had bought the identical crossbow arrow tip and bolts to the same one that killed Mr Corrigan on Amazon in 2 separate orders a few weeks before the murder. Wall's prosecutors admitted that without the Land Rover's black box location technology, Wall may have gotten away with the murder. But no motive has been given as to why Mr Corrigan was killed. His death remains an unsettling mystery that will continue to haunt the people of Anglesey and those who remember his story.